This is the third part of podcast 1. The motion of the Earth and the planets around the Sun was not always the case, or thought to be the case. Scientists had to come up with a reason why they thought that it was the Sun that was at the centre of the solar system rather than the Earth. So all they could see was what they could see in the sky at night time, and it appeared as if everything was moving around the Earth. So there were two really historical viewpoints. The first one was the geocentric system, and it was the first system where everyone on the Earth was observing what was happening in the heavens, and they felt that the Earth was at the centre of the solar system and indeed the universe. So they suggested all the planets and the Sun orbited around the Earth. Now this was very, very strongly agreed by the church at the time, because the Bible said that God had created the Earth in 7 days, and it seemed obvious that the Earth was at the centre. However, a monk called Copernicus, he was a Polish monk, came along and he studied the heavens, and he noticed that there were things that didn't fit in with the geocentric system, and he proposed the heliocentric system. And the heliocentric system suggests that the Sun is at the centre of the solar system, and the planets, their moons, asteroids, orbit around the Sun. Helios, by the way, is the Greek name for the sun. If you think of geography or geology, you'll remember that that's the Earth. So that's where the Earth is the centre. You do need to know those two names, geocentric and heliocentric. So this is a geocentric system. The geocentric system suggested that anyone on the Earth was viewing everything in a sphere around them. So if you were on the Earth, you were stationary. You weren't moving, and everything was moving in a circle or a sphere around you. And that's what was very consistent with the church's teaching, and that's what everyone believes. So there's the Earth in the centre, and all the stars and planets and everything else that was seen in the sky seemed to be revolving around the Earth. However, this is another diagram of that again. It's just as if the celestial sphere, or that sphere idea, has been cut open. There's the Earth in the centre, the moons moving around it, Venus, Sun, Mars, and all the other planets, which maybe at that time weren't just named. However, whenever Copernicus came along, this is a picture of him here, he was really quite hesitant about suggesting that it was otherwise. When he looked in the sky, he saw that despite the fact that many of the stars seemed to move around the Earth, there seemed to be a few which sometimes went backwards, and for example Mars and Venus, and he really didn't agree with that, didn't seem consistent. Other people had drawn other circles and so on, and other orbits around other things to show that this was why, but it was all very complicated and he just didn't agree. But because he believed in God and he was afraid of the church at the time, he didn't suggest his ideas really until near the end of his life. Also, of course, he was a monk and it went against his beliefs, but he felt very strongly that the model, the geocentric model, just didn't seem to be the right model. So he was suggesting then that the Sun was at the centre and all the planets moved around it, and then the moon, which also was obviously very apparent in the sky, was actually moving around the Earth. You can see here, this is a very old picture of his model, and you can't see Uranus, Neptune or Pluto. Galileo then came along and he made a telescope, and he looked at the heavens and he saw very surprising things like the fact that there were 4 moons orbiting Jupiter, and whereas the geocentric system suggested everything orbited the Earth, this just definitely wasn't the case. So he suggested this, and the church were very annoyed and took him to trial, and he spent some time in prison. And later on in his life, again, he suggested it again, and the church again took him to jail, and he was kept under house arrest till the end of his life. So eventually, though, the other scientists started to back him up and realise that he wasn't talking nonsense, and the church had to then agree. And it was only in 1992 that Pope John Paul II actually came out and said yes, definitely the Earth also orbited the Sun. So that was quite a shocking thing for the church to try and come to terms with. So those are the two systems, the heliocentric, which is our currently believed system, the heliocentric system, but the geocentric system was the first one. And for reasons at that time, it wasn't just accepted, in particular because the church had such an influence on people at the time.